Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to everyone. Welcome to the Asian Water Forum, the session of leading the transition to the circular economy in Asia and Pacific. I am Jing Ming, the Director of Urban Development and Water Division at the Pacific Department. Very happy to be the moderator of the session. Circular economy has emerged as a response to our current mainstream linear model of take, make, consume, and waste. The approach behind the circular economy is to capture the full value of water by capturing and reusing energy, nutrients, and other material byproducts. Pollution is designed out of the system. Impacts on natural resources are minimized, and the watershed and other natural systems are restored by closing the loop. With rising demand for water in the face of growing water scarcity, water pollution, and also climate change, circular economy approaches in water sector are becoming increasingly important. However, circular economy solutions are not so widely used. So this panel would explore the potential to promote the use of circular economy approaches in the Asia and Pacific region and consider some of the enabling factors and the constraints. To discuss the topic, we have invited the following experts to speak on this panel. Kenichi Yokoyama-san. Sorry, can you hear me okay?
I believe she's muted.
Should I jump in?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Allow me to step in while we are fixing the
Okay, sorry for the inconvenience. Now I'm reconnected. Everything's okay. Let's come to the first round of panel discussions. 5 minutes for each panelist. Let me come to Nilsha first. Nilsha is the Chief Strategy and Development Officer for Research, Berkeley Lab, Earth and Environmental Sciences area at the
Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. So, Nusha, I just wonder if you could please introduce us to the concept of water recycling or wastewater reuse and its application for different purpose. Please, can you also explain what the drivers and the opportunities are in this sector? Thank you.
Thank you, Jingming. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And it's wonderful to be joined by so many wonderful colleagues and this panel. I've been asked to talk about water recycling and reuse. And as Jingming mentioned, the idea here is how we can use the circular economy concept in the water sector in order to reduce our waste and basically reduce the amount of water we use while we are preserving our environment. Basically, every water that we use every day on a daily basis, a lot of it can be recycled and reused very easily through technological advancement that we have. And this water recycling and reuse can happen at every scale. For example, if you think about it, you take a shower, the water from your shower is quite clean, can be treated very minimally and be reused to flushing toilets or using for outdoor spaces. So on a daily basis, however, we are not necessarily doing that as much as we should. A lot of the 20th century infrastructure that we depend on in many parts of the world is built as a one-stream system. We go secure the water for the consumers. It comes through the pipes to your tap. You use it once. It's collected later, taken out and treated and put back to the environment. In some cases, do not even get treated and put back in the environment. However, if we can actually close this loop and reuse and recycle water at every scale, we potentially can reduce the amount of water we take out of the environment. Think about the other water that we have out there that we are not using. For example, wastewater. We're using the word waste because something but the reality is so many technologies that can take water and take the impurities out of it and make that water appropriate to be used for various purposes. And that can happen again at every scale. Another way of using it can be like for agriculture, for outdoor spaces, for the various activities that we have in our cities and communities that does not require high quality drinkable water. I think 21st century can be defined by the concept of fit for purpose, because we can take the water and identify what kind of quality does it need to have, and then treat it to that level, and then use it for that purpose. Another value that water recycling can bring to this process is actually when we treat the water to the specific purpose, we use less resources, less energy, have less carbon footprints, and actually can reduce our emissions. So not only we are using less water and taking less water out of the environment, we actually can reduce our carbon and energy footprint at the same time. I think for now, I guess another question you asked, Jingming, was about the barriers and opportunities here. And I would say there are a couple of them that I'm going to highlight. One is often because we have used the word waste and wastewater, we think the water is not fit for use and should be taken out as fast as we can. We do this in many ways in our cities. For example, reuse and recycling can also happen for reusing and recycling our stormwater or flood water or rainwater. But our cities and communities have been built in a way to get all these waters together and out of our system. So one of those hinders for this transition is mindset that people have that is this good water? Can we use it? Is it appropriate for use even after it's treated? And I would say we have advanced technologies such as desalination technologies that takes this water and takes all the impurities out of it and can make it as a drinkable water that can be used for many purposes. We can also treat it to a lower quality and use it for other purposes. Another reason is our cities and communities, as I said, has been built as a one-through linear system. So reusing and recycling is not embedded in our current infrastructure model that we have. So to introduce reuse and recycling at every scale, we have to rethink how we do, how we incorporate these distributed technologies along the way. Think about solar panels on your roof. Think about, for example, on-site reuse in your home, meaning you can generate water in your home by reducing your waste and taking your water and treating it and using it for different purposes. That's what, for example, an on-site reuse system that's on a smaller scale can do. But, or you can actually do it in your neighborhood scale or at the city and community scale. However, all these things require different kind of infrastructure, sometimes new infrastructure, sometimes incorporating a different operational capacity that would be enabled to kind of combine these different systems together and be able to operate it seamlessly across the board and across the service line. And so that kind of transition sometimes it requires a lot of vision and better thinking when it comes to city management, city planning, and also operational capacity. However, again, as I said, a lot of the hinders and problems with recycling is not necessarily a technological capacity, is very much of an institutional and human capacity that we need to build in order to be able to capture and access this kind of solution as part of our portfolio of solutions that we are looking into, especially as we are moving towards, in some cases, drier sort of future with less rain or snow, or when as we are sort of experiencing intense rains or intense events, intense meteorological and climatological events that can actually eventually impact the amount of water that comes into our cities at the same time. I'll stop here and look forward to the rest of the discussion.
Thank you, Nilsha. Very, very comprehensive answer. I can see that the mindset, change of the mindset, and to have a good awareness of water reuse are so important. And also we can minimize the single use of the water, such as just use it for shower and then discharge it. Try to reuse it for some irrigation, for the watering the plant. It would all be good. Okay, great ideas. Okay, let's move to Kenichi Yokoyama-san. He is a director for South Asia Department, Asian Development Bank. South Asia Department is the largest regional department in ADB. It covers 6 countries, including Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. Kenichi-san, just wonder to what extent are you seeing the demand from your client countries to integrate circular economy approaches into ADB projects? And what is driving this demand? And what role does ADB have in promoting such approaches to create more demand? Please, Kenichi-san.
Thank you, Jimmy. I hope you can hear me. So on this issue of circular economy approach, as we all know, in case of South Asia, not only South Asia, across Asia Pacific region, actually water scarcity, quality deterioration, disaster vulnerability is a major development constraints. And also, I mean, this is exacerbated by the economic growth, water scarcity, environment degradation, as well as the impact of climate change. So we have actually large number of water sector operations in South Asia. We have our total operation is about $35 billion at this moment, and out of which about 20 to 25% is water. So we have an opportunity to apply this circular principle there. But I think, in my view, and as well as operation, the need for the circular economy approach in water management is pursued at macro, or so to say, river basin level, on the one hand, as well as the individual system like city water supply, sanitation, wastewater system at the level of municipalities. So at the river basin level, I think this session tends to look more on the individual system level, but I think we should not forget about the basin level, because water is reused a number of times. So high proportion of irrigation and urban water withdrawn from the rivers come back as a return flow. And then it is again and again used. So in a sense, river system is already a circular water utilization system. But here, ensuring the circular economy requires establishing appropriate, policy, planning, legal, and institutional systems and decision support systems at the national and the basin level. So ADB's water policy is clear about these principles and approach. So we need to establish the policy framework to plan, implement, and manage water in an integrated and sustainable manner, ensuring the circular utilization principles. And there's a need for a database on water quality and quality levels at key points of the river channels and withdrawal points and effluent discharging points. And using the database as a decision support system to ensure volume and quality is managed in an orderly and disciplined manner so that the downstream users can use water with acceptable quality and quantity. So, and then investment planning to progressively strengthen the infrastructure, institutions, and decision support systems. So this is, I think, one important area in our operations to apply this integrated water management principles across the basin. So we have been working in Nepal. Actually, country director is a water resource specialist in this area, and supporting the preparation of national water law in the federal system and establishment of river basin organizations and basin development plans. And we have India integrated water planning at the basin level in Karnataka and Odisha and Bangladesh. We used to support this national water policy and management planning, and our focus is more on the water management side, implementing infrastructure and systems for quality, in particular, control, and as well as the disaster risk management. So I just cover this, the circular principle from the basin perspective, but anyway, circular economy principle should strongly be embedded in the integrated water resource management at basin and individual levels. And I'll cover more on the municipality level water recycling system in my next opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenichi-san. Very good point that the water reuse should be considered in an integrated way and also in a basin level. You're extremely true that from a basin level consideration, every drop of water has been reused several times for irrigation, for urban, for other power generation. So very good point. Thank you. And now let's come to Yomiko-san. She is the Chief Executive Officer, Veolia Japan. She currently also serves as a member of Future City Initiative under Cabinet Secretariat, Government of Japan. So Yomiko-san, Veolia is a global leader in deploying the wastewater reuse technologies. Can you please tell us a bit more about Veolia's work in this area? And also, how fast are you seeing this market segment growing in Asia? Which industries account for the bulk use of this wastewater reuse? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jinmin. It is quite nice to be here. It's a great honor for me to be able to participate in this esteemed panel discussion. First of all, fresh water, as you know, is essential to human life. Yet 36% of the global population is living in water-scarce regions. Fresh water is coming under ever-increasing pressure because of the continued population, urbanization, and climate change. In order to release the pressure on fresh water availability, we at Veolia strongly believe that water reuse is an important solution option. For more than 20 years, Veolia has designed and implemented water reuse solutions in the water scarce areas around the world for a broad range of applications. Application can be grouped into broadly 4 types. One is for industry reuse, such as for cooling towers, boiler water, processed water, and so on, used in the factories. The second application is for potable reuse, i.e. drinking water for citizens. And the third application is agriculture reuse, and the fourth one is environmental reuse. And we use a combination of treatment systems and technologies to meet the regulatory, environmental, and health requirements, depending on each particular type of application. Please let me introduce some of our work at Veolia. First, on the industry reuse. In China, which faces severe water scarcity, especially in the northern parts of the country, we have been working with Yanshan Petrochemical, which is a subsidiary of Sinopec, since 2006. We work to optimize water consumption, increase the recycling rate, and to meet the industrial water discharge standards of the government, which is quite stringent. About 30% of the treated wastewater is reused, which is equivalent to 7.2 million cubic meter water per year. We also work with Tianjin Soda, which is one of the China's largest chemical manufacturers. About 60% of the treated wastewater is reused, which is equivalent to 4 million cubic meter water per year. Another example in China is with Tangshan Iron Steel, one of the largest steel manufacturing state-owned enterprise in China, located also in the northern part of China. The company took the decision to develop a very ambitious wastewater and recycling strategy in order to meet the new national discharge standard for effluent quality and maximum discharge volume. Veolia makes about 60% of treated wastewater to be reused in their plant. In Morocco, Africa, we work for Renault, a French car manufacturer, for their car assembly factories with the production capacity of 200,000 cars per year. Veolia has designed and has been operating since 2012 a zero liquid discharge plant for Renault. This contributes to saving 300,000 cubic meter water per year. Second type of application is for portable reuse. In Zambia, Africa, where water is extremely precious, Veolia has been producing 7.7 million cubic meter water per year of high quality portable water from wastewater since 2002. We supply up to 1/3 of the portable water to the capital city with 350,000 population. The third type of application is for the agriculture irrigation. We work for the project in northern Morocco, invested by the national government and municipalities. In the region, there are 2 million inhabitants, and they frequently have suffered from a cut of water supply in the summertime. 1.7 million cubic meter of treated water was reused for irrigation in 2021 and expected to be 3.5 million cubic meter by 2032. We have more examples in Spain where water stress is a growing concern. Veolia is operating a water reclamation plant in the Llobregat Rivers Delta, providing 100 million cubic meters water per year for agriculture irrigation. This is alternative water supply source for metropolitan area of Barcelona. I would add one more case in Hawaii, which is illustrative of a crowded island. Veolia has built and been operating the largest reclamation plant in Honolulu since 1998 for releasing the pressure on fresh water availability in the island. We make 450,000 cubic meters of water for reuse. The unique feature of this project is that we produce 2 different grades of the treated water, one for the irrigation of golf course, and the other one, higher grade water for industrial use in the power and petrochemical sectors. So these are only a few examples, but we have been observing a strong need for reuse for industry, agriculture, and potable water. And certainly the growth in Asia is very fast, quite fast, driven by water scarcity, demand growth, and government regulations like in China. In terms of the sector which you just asked, we see a large demand in the heavy industries, such as petrochemical industries, chemical industries, steel industries, and automotive sectors. Also, I would add that increasing number of global companies are seeking for zero liquid discharge plant for environmental reasons, for sustainability reasons, and better risk management for the company. I stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yumiko-san. We can all see Veolia's great achievements in all the 4 areas of water reuse, covering industry, potable water, environment, and agriculture. Great achievement. We look forward to more of that. And now let's move to Jack. Jack is globally known as Mr. Toilet. He founded the Water Toilet Organization in 2001, which is different from World Trade Organization, another WTO. He also created the UN World Toilet Day, which is celebrated every 19th November. Jack works to mobilize, align, and facilitate global stakeholders towards transforming 4 billion low-income population into a massively efficient marketplace. And Jack, I also see your background paper of this sanitation resolution. So in the context of your WTO and it's your mission, could you please tell us a bit more of your work and what WTO is doing to promote waste recycling and the resource recovery? Thank you, please.
Thank you very much. For Water Forum, as you can see, they didn't say this is the Asia Water and Sanitation Forum. They say Water Forum. And this is why my job is very important, because everywhere, everyone is talking about water, but they don't talk about sanitation, because the sanitation is a little bit not glamorous, it's embarrassing, and there's also very little funding for sanitation. So if there is a treatment of wastewater, then they call it water, but they don't call it sanitation. So the World Toilet Organization was formed to create to break the taboo, so that we go to the toilet 6 to 8 times a day. We have to feel very normal that the toilet is part of our daily culture, and we need to have the high quality culture to have a high quality life. And we don't have that, because at the time it was about 2.5 billion people don't have access to proper sanitation 20 years ago. And we started to make toilet popular. And as we start to make the media realize that you cannot have clean water unless you have a proper sanitation, because the river water is clean, but if you put the human waste into the river, it becomes contaminated. And then you get disease spread. Then you have unproductive people. Then you have to cure them. Then you lost the GDP and you lost the multiplier effect. And a sick nation became a burden and cannot become get out of poverty. It's a very simple thing just to talk about. And over the last 21 years we have been around, we managed to create the United Nations World Toilet Day, which is our founding day, to be recognized at the UN Assembly with all 193 country signatory. And now everybody is serious about talking about sanitation. However, if we stop talking, then maybe the agenda will go to climate change and go to COVID and go to Ukraine war and even the English Premier League and Kim Kardashian's lunch and all that. So keeping the subject alive is our work. And one of a few things is every year we host a World Toilet Summit in different countries, and each of these summits created legacy that in 2007 we started in India with the president of India and the crown prince of the Netherlands, who is now the king, and we make toilet sanitation very high profile. And after that, all the politicians start to win election by promising people toilet. And finally, Prime Minister Modi won a landslide victory when he promised every Indian family a toilet. Then they built 110 million toilets in India. This is the biggest toilet construction project in the history of mankind. And of course, not to lose out to India, China, President Xi Jinping is now the toilet champion of the China toilet revolution, and he's built 32 million toilets. And in Brazil, we went to help convince the Senate to change the policy to allow public-private partnership. And now the sewage treatment plant, the water company that is owned by the Brazil government, allows private investment. Maybe Veola, we can go together and do this, because we have already attracted $4.5 billion investment into Brazil. 50% of all their shit are not treated. And therefore, after this lobbying, they hosted World Toilet Summit in 2019. And 7 months later, they passed the law. And now they are targeting 135 billion US dollar if the whole of Brazil water treatment plant are invested. So I think we will probably not reach that point, but 50 billion, 80 billion, 100 billion is still very, very good to do. So by this experience, we are hosting World Toilet Summit in Nigeria by the President of Nigeria this year, World Toilet Day. And similarly, we want to do the same impact. And of course, we like to do it in Asia. So please continue to talk about sanitation and don't just call it water. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. We can ensure that your topic is always alive. As I mentioned, your video is shown in our cafeteria every day. So we are keeping talking about the sanitation. I can guarantee that. Very good, thank you. Now we finish the first round of panel questions. Let's take this chance to do this audience poll. So we now ask our audience to answer a poll question. You will find the polling tab on the right-hand side of your screen. And please just click on your answer. Let me just read the question. In your view, which one is the biggest hurdle to the circular transition in Asia and Pacific water sector? A, poor wastewater management. B, lack of incentives for industries. C, restrictive regulatory framework. And D, lack of technology innovation. So please just click on your answer, and then we will see which would be the most popular answer. Okay, so I see some result comes out already. Let me just see the answer. Okay. Okay, it's very good. Yeah, you can see that most of our audience, it's changing all the time. The highest answer, highest choices here, it's changing. Still, the restrictive regulatory framework. It's 40.7% audience supported, and then it's changing. And then the next one is lack of incentives from industries, 31%. And then the third is poor wastewater management, 23%, but it's still changing. And the lack of technological innovation has 5.6% of audience support. So it's very interesting that, it's changing. So now the choices for the top three: poor wastewater management, lack of incentive for industries, and very restrictive regulatory framework, almost same, and specifically the second and third are the same. So yeah, it seems we all want to develop more incentives from the industry, and also want to work with the government on how to improve the regulatory framework to promote more wastewater reuse projects. Very good result, and really it reflects the situation. And now let's go to the second round of panel questions. Based on our panel result, I just want to ask Kenichi-san, can you please talk about how government and development partners such as ADB can work together with the government to create the right enabling environment, such as we mentioned in the poll, that the regulatory framework and to support the circular economy, and then promote more approaches to support the investment in water reuse technologies. Is there any specific sample you can share with us? Thank you.
Thank you, Jin-Min. So actually in our day-to-day operational experience, actually this adoption of water use or reuse technologies are often seen or increasingly seen in the individual system like municipality level, and also small river basins, particularly in the water scarce areas. I will just give some example. But in those areas where no other sources are essentially available, so we have to go for the reuse to meet the increasing water demand. So in those cases, it is definitely our experience also shows that the right to enabling environment is essential by, say, establishing sound water service regulations. So particularly the important aspect is enabling cost recovery of operation and maintenance, as well as investment cost recovery by setting appropriate tariffs, and then the tariffs supplemented by infusion of some funds, grant fund or viability gap financing. Of course, along with the quality standards must be there. And also, in order for the private sector to come in this or appropriate to PPP framework, will also be desirably there to set the standards, particularly for how the authorities will provide the viability gap financing on the one hand, and also risk sharing between the government and the private sector. So in a sense, private sector comes, but if people do not pay, then who will take the risk? So those are always, issues coming out. And but we see some examples, particularly starting, in case of South Asia, charging tariff for even the operation is not so easy because water is seen as a social good. So in a sense, not so easy, but we see some cases like particularly industrial water use, because industrial water users generally pay for the water, user charge. So one particular example is India, Rajasthan. I know Rajasthan is a desert state and one of the most water scarce states. So we have one scheme reuse of treated wastewater for industry through PPP. So ADB worked with the state government and I think World Bank is also engaged in this, but state water policy. But also ADB helped to prepare the state to sewerage and wastewater policy 2016. So this policy set the guidance of treated wastewater recycling, specifically cost sharing between government and the private sector. So government shares 40 and private sector is 60. And of course, there's some flexibility depending on the circumstances. And ADB project is now preparing a suitable PPP model, probably using what's called this hybrid annuity model. And I understand that our team is collaborating with the state Australian Research Triangle Institute International, and it's Water for Women Fund. So this is one example, but also nationwide, we have started to work with the government at the national scheme for urban water mission. So we had a policy based around last year to help define their policy and the planning guidelines for the state and the municipalities to prepare the municipality level and state level water plans. So water plans includes that each municipality is encouraged to prepare the water recycling plan with treated used water, as well as the rejuvenation of the existing water bodies. And then preparing the investment proposals for future financing by the central government, possibly with ADB financing. So there are opportunities that we are working, and definitely this water recycling, wherever possible, we are very much emphasizing. And India, particularly the water scarce region, there are plenty. So our team is also working in such circumstances, so increasing circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenichi-san. I can hear clearly that private sector's involvement, tariff system, regulatory reform are all needed to be the enabling factors. Very good, thank you. I come to Nusha very briefly. You have been working quite a lot for the US cities, specifically the infrastructure planning and the other investment. So just wonder if there are any lessons you can share from the US cities for Asian cities, please. Thank you.
Sure. I think great discussion so far, and I think we have covered all these opportunities for recycling and reuse. A couple of things to consider is, one of the things we face when we want to transition to using water in a circular way is the fact that there's a fragmentation in the institutional process. For example, there are utilities or groups that focus on water supply and securing water supplies, and people who deal with sanitation and wastewater treatment. And when you talk about recycling, you have to be able to connect these two, because the institution that deals with wastewater treatment and putting it back in the environment becomes the source for the utility that requires to bring water to people. And if there is no connection between the two, that can be challenging, especially when it comes to investing in infrastructure, because each one of these institutions have their own mandate and have their own financing and financial capacity. And they need to make sure they spend their dollars or their money in whatever currency it is to meet those goals. So I guess there are two lessons learned. One is if we are dealing with an existing institutional capacity or existing fragmentation that is there, we have to think about how we can create more connection between the two. What we have seen in the US is most of the innovation around recycling and reuse has happened in areas that have had either one umbrella organization hosting both of these entities, for example, a water department and a wastewater department. or have been sort of try to create this connection by building partnerships or financial models that enables them to work together. And so that's very important. And a few examples of that, for example, the Orange County Water District in Southern California had been doing reuse, indirect portable reuse for many years. And they do actually have they have been taking the wastewater, treating it, and putting back into the underground basins. Initially, it was for preventing sort of seawater intrusion, but eventually they realized this water is so valuable, so they started using it as a source of water, so they diversified their water supply. Another example of that is City of San Francisco, where I live. We have an ordinance that requires every building that's larger than 100,000 square foot or higher incorporate on-site reuse system. And this was a strategy city took for the downtown area because it's quite dense and very difficult to build a sort of centralized recycling plant. So we wanted to partner with developers to partially reduce their water footprint as they are building new infrastructure, new buildings. So basically partnering with us in building future infrastructure. And I think that actually has worked quite well because a lot of these buildings have been taking water from all different parts of the building and recycling and reusing it within the building. I think the opportunity area, however, is when you're looking at the developed cities or already sort of established cities, it's very difficult to imagine how you would change them to incorporate reuse at every scale. From basin scale to individual unit scale. However, sometimes we are talking about developing or underdeveloped countries or regions within countries that do not have already established systems that are sort of rigid and do not let them to incorporate these new solutions within them. And for those kind of situations, we actually have an opportunity to use them as a blank sheet of paper and rethink and reimagine how we are doing our planning process, right? We don't need to build a linear system in a community that does not have a proper sanitation yet. If there is an opportunity to actually create a circular water economy from scratch, it's going to cost a lot less, and it's going to create an infrastructure that belongs to today rather than the past. So I think when we are talking about new cities and new communities, that blank sheet of paper should be always in our mind and be able to kind of think about what Jack is doing with bringing sanitation to these communities, but also thinking about how we can use that process in actually maybe establishing like a small recycling plant on site that can take some of that waste and repurpose different parts of it for, fertilization, for, water, for sort of mining, for different things within that resource that we have, and recover all the resources that are in the waste and be able to reuse water and reuse all those other sources that we can recover there. So it's just like, I think I would put these in two categories. And I would say even in the developed countries, I think we sometimes lack imaginations because we think we are stuck in this existing rigid system and we have to continue on the same path forever and ever. But the reality is we are building future cities today, even in California, even in the US, even in China, in Japan, in all these countries that already have established infrastructure. Whatever development is happening is something that's going to last for many, many years to come. So being able to rethink and reimagine how we are doing things is going to make us much more water resilient and be able to make us more climate resilient at the same time.
Thank you. Really impressive that you suggest we can consider to design a modernized idea, to use a modernized idea of circular economy for the design of our sanitation system. So we would have this circular economy idea from the very beginning of the infrastructure investment. Thank you. That's a very, very good idea. Now I come to Yumiko-san. And from your view, how do water reuse technologies compare with other options, such as desalination, to increase water supply where there is a water scarcity? Because due to the climate change, really a lot of demand coming from the desalination. So how you think of the reuse and desalination, compare them? Thank you.
Thank you, Jimin. So relative use of wastewater versus seawater as resources. In other words, as you said, reuse versus desalination. It depends on the local context. And the business case depends on the economics of the water scarcity in each region. In general, wastewater reuse has several advantages over desalination. I will highlight 3 aspects. The first, proximity. You can install reuse systems in close proximity to areas in need of water. Desalination needs good access to sea coast, obviously. So second is a cost. Reuse is less costly than desalination in general. Third is flexibility. You can produce several different grades of treated water quality depending on the application. I laid out earlier, from drinking water to industry use to irrigation. Desalination is mainly for producing the very high quality water for drinking, and it gets very costly for other applications. Veolia believes that wastewater reuse is the first choice, and if this cannot cover the demand, desalination comes as the second choice, especially in the areas where freshwater resources are extremely limited, such as in arid areas and islands. So that's my question to you, Jimin.
Very clear and really good answers. So reuse of the wastewater should have the priority. And then if it cannot meet all the demand, then the desalination should be considered. But always the reuse should be first choice. Thank you. Really good. And also the reasons you gave us really well justified. Thank you. Now let's come to Jack. In the mission of WTO is that everyone should have access to a toilet. So does treating waste as a resource help to make investment in sanitation more attractive? Please, Jack.
Yes, actually, the calculation of investment, return on investment on wastewater treatment and sanitation and hygiene has been wrongly calculated so far. Because when they calculate the profitability of the water revenue and the sanitation plan, that is forgetting the externality of the health cost that the city government is paying for sick people on the untreated water. And how about the income tax that they have been unable to collect because the people were unproductive, because they are sick or their children are sick. And then you have to price the tourism income that you lost when you put all the shit on the beaches and all the toilets that are not clean. So in reality, sanitation costs money, but non-sanitation costs even more money. So you have to make the total calculation and realize that, do you like to spend money or more money? If you like to spend more money, then forget about sanitation. Then that is the current situation. So people need to realize this. And if we are able to treat the waste as resource, you know, if we keep throwing away our urine and our feces, eventually we will have a big phosphorus situation. And then you don't have just a water war or nuclear war, you also have the mineral war. And the phosphorus is so shortage. And there are only 2 or 3 countries who has the control of phosphorus. And if you don't have phosphorus, you will have no fertilizer for the farm. So you have to be so careful to think in a holistic 360-degree manner how important the forest economy uses recycling of the shit of animal to grow new crop. So in future, we have to think of the taxation system like the forest. The tax the animal pay is shit. After they consume, they excrete and they regenerate. We have to redesign our taxation system in this manner to be sustainable.
Thank you, Jack. Every time I'm really so impressed by your enthusiastic on this sanitation thing, and everything you talked is really very, very well justified. And this point that we should consider from a holistic view about their investment in sanitation and also the treatment of their sanitation and how we can also transit it to circular economy is really, really very, very valid. And now it's coming to the closing part of our session. Always it's too short to listen to you. You know, it's so nice to learn from you. And in closing, we would like to share with you our graphic summary. That wow, that's amazing. Yeah, this summary really shows what kind of information has gone through this session. Please get 3 takeaways for you. I can see clearly reduce wastewater used to preserve the environment, and also they start talking about sanitation and rethink and reimagine to create a circular economy for their infrastructure. That's all very good. So I just wonder, you know, if anyone has anything specifically want to mention using this opportunity.
Can I say something?
Please.
The toilet can give us diagnosis of our future diseases. So right now in COVID, we are able to survey where are the COVID concentration diseases by surveying the sewerage discharge area. And in the future, we can even predict our health, our diseases like colorectal cancer, diabetes, heart, things like as if we are having a medical checkup every day. When we go to the toilet, we urinate and we download, and we get all this data collected on our cell phone. So we need to invest in preventive health rather than the curative health, which is much more expensive.
So therefore, sanitation could be a good approach to do that, yeah? It's
yes.
also part of the circular economy. That's great. And also from this graphic summary, I can see there are different reuse solutions, and also there are different model of this reusing. So very nice. Anyone else want to say anything here?
I would just to quickly add also, at the center of all this is our digital economy, right? The fact that we now have a lot of capacity to collect data, use information, reoperate systems through sort of better data and information technology. And we have to definitely sort of in a parallel way incorporate that as part of our transition process, partly because of what Jack said, harnessing all the data that we can collect from our sanitation, but also to better and more optimally operate our existing systems in harmony with these new systems that we are introducing.
Thank you. That's great. That's coming to the end of our session. Many thanks to their panelists, Kenichi-san, Yumiko-san, Nusha, and Jack. Thank you for the very, very informative discussion. And also many thanks to the audience for participation. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you very much.